Stop. The greatest threat to your peace, your lasting motivation, and your entire future is not an external problem, but the silent, unexamined chaos within your own mind. Your consciousness, in its default conditioned state, is a machine built for self-sabotage, generating 5 specific toxic thought patterns that you accept as your reality. Alan Watts taught that freedom begins not by fixing the world, but by firing your own inner dictator. We are constantly seeking external perfection, the perfect job, the perfect life, and we strive endlessly to fix our circumstances. But the profound truth is that all suffering is an internal projection. Watts asks the fundamental question, what if your own mind is rigged against you? What if the simple act of trying to be happy is the mechanism that ensures your misery? In this lecture, we expose the 5 toxic thoughts that quietly destroy your creative power. The moment you name these patterns, you neutralize them. The first step in self-mastery is to confront toxic thought 1, the myth of perfection. The pattern whispers, I am not complete yet. I must analyze, optimize, and fix myself before I can truly live or achieve success. This is the great lie sold by the entire self-help industry. The idea that you are fundamentally broken. Watts dismantled this myth, recognizing it as a sickness of the ego. The anxious mind, unable to tolerate the spontaneous freedom of existence, creates an endless, overwhelming list of self-improvements. You are made to feel that you must be perpetually smarter, richer, and more enlightened before you can be deemed worthy. But this relentless pursuit of an imagined future perfection is a vicious, self-perpetuating trap. It is the very reason you are chronically unhappy, because the desperate chase prevents you from being fully present in the only moment that exists, the now. The universe does not require your frantic efforts at improving. It is expressing itself perfectly, chaos and all. You, as an essential part of that self-existing universe, are already enough. The profound refusal to constantly fix yourself is the first most powerful step toward unlocking true, unburdened motivation. Your creative energy is finally freed up to act spontaneously when you stop the unnecessary labor of perfecting the already perfect. Toxic thought 2, the tyranny of the should. This pattern is far more than mere self-criticism. It functions as a potent psychological weapon that utilizes the phantom of the past to effectively poison the experience of the present moment. We take the simple, necessary reality of what is, the undeniable facts of our current situation, and immediately convert it into an emotionally devastating crime against our own rigid, internalized expectations. Your internal monologue relentlessly compares your current, messy, unique human reality to some idealized, often culturally manufactured, unattainable standard of success or enlightenment. You anxiously review your past decisions. You glance enviously at the curated, seemingly perfect external lives of your peers, and your mind generates the heavy, paralyzing judgment of the should. The voice demands, I should have been financially wealthier by now. I should have achieved the perfect, conflict-free relationship that others display. I should have been a recognized spiritual sage by this precise point in my life. But the fundamental liberating wisdom of Watts offers an essential counterpoint. The only reality that fundamentally matters, the only thing that is empirically real, is the eternal now. The past is, scientifically and philosophically, nothing more than an insubstantial memory, a neurochemical phantom. The future is merely an abstract, anxiety-inducing expectation, a complex conceptual fantasy. Both are structurally illusory constructs created solely by the mind's time-binding anxious mechanisms. The very instant you cling desperately to the rigid, unrealistic notion of the should, you enter into a fierce, exhausting, and completely irrational resistance against the only profound reality you possess. True freedom arrives when you consciously and deliberately accept the present moment as a necessary, flowing, spontaneous, and perfect consequence of the entire unfolding history of the cosmos. By accepting the Tao's flow, you are instantly and profoundly liberated from the crushing, corrosive weight of chronic guilt, debilitating regret, and the resulting paralysis of self-blame. This radical acceptance of what is the absolute key to unlocking spontaneous, unburdened presence, which is the singular necessary state for truly powerful and uninhibited motivation. Toxic thought. 3. The illusion of control. This pattern is fundamentally the death of all spontaneous creative flow and the single primary source of chronic, crippling anxiety. Your small, fearful ego clings with white-knuckle desperation to the imaginary steering wheel of the universe, convinced that your frantic worrying and compulsive planning is somehow preventing an inevitable catastrophe that remains entirely outside your control. Watts's most elegant, simple, and definitive analogy addresses this profound futility. Trying to control and manage things is like trying to hold back the tide with a sieve. Your excessive, tense, anxious effort cannot logically control the final complex outcome. It achieves only one devastating thing, generating profound, debilitating psychological exhaustion and self-contempt. The wise individual understands and embodies the deep, liberating power of Wu Wei, true, spontaneous, and highly effective action performed entirely without excessive effort, forced striving, or attachment to the final result. They act diligently, pouring their full, focused attention into the task in the present moment, but they then gracefully and immediately let go of the final anticipated result. They know the universe is an infinitely interconnected, self-regulating system that operates perfectly without your microscopic, anxious intervention. This thought pattern is deeply toxic because it burns your limited, precious mental energy on the impossible. The true, inexhaustible source of mastery is not in controlling the world's variables, but in trusting the world to unfold as it must, while you play your individual necessary role with absolute, precise, and profoundly detached attention. Toxic thought. 4. The burden of ownership. This pattern is the absolute foundation of all acute emotional attachment, all subsequent corrosive fear of loss, and therefore all unnecessary self-inflicted suffering. You passionately cling to the profound yet ultimately illusory belief that you truly own your professional achievements, your accumulated material wealth, your complex relationship with your current partner, or even the abstract philosophical ideas that constitute your current self-identity. But Watts asks the simple, disarming, and liberating question that immediately dissolves this entire illusion. Can you truly hold water in a tightly clutched fist? Everything in the cosmos is fundamentally transient, flowing, temporary, and subject to ceaseless, relentless change. The very moment you claim definitive, absolute ownership, declaring, "This success is mine," or "This person is mine," you simultaneously and inevitably invoke the opposite pole, the crippling, chronic fear of losing it. This unbearable, exhausting burden of ownership instantly transforms temporary, spontaneous joy into chronic anxiety, defensive paranoia, and relentless vigilance. The truly liberated mind accepts with profound relief that they are merely the temporary steward or the humble, grateful vessel for flowing resources, for circulating relationships, and for passing ideas. When you finally realize that everything in your life is merely passing through you, the essence of non-self, your energy is instantly and completely freed from the exhausting, defensive, and ultimately futile duty of possession. You no longer have to build walls around the transient. This is the simple, silent secret of profound, unshakable abundance. You become truly and spiritually wealthy not by fiercely owning and defending, but by gracefully allowing the boundless flow of life to move through your hands without desperately needing to cling to it. This acceptance allows you to act powerfully without fear. Toxic thought. 5. The poison of comparison. This is the silent, pervasive cancer of the modern ego, the most destructive psychological pattern, and the ultimate self-defeating rejection of the cosmic joke. You systematically use the external successes, the curated appearances, and the highlight reel projections of others as a rigid, unforgiving measuring stick for your own internal worth. This means your peace and self-esteem become entirely and dangerously dependent on the perceived lack of peace or success in someone else's external life. The moment you engage in the futile, self-destructive act of judging or comparing yourself against another person, you have structurally accepted the core fundamental lie of separation, the false belief that you are an isolated, competitive entity, fighting for scarce resources. But the philosophical truth is simple, unassailable, and liberating. You are unique, you are spontaneous, you are necessary. Your personal journey is not a furious, competitive, zero-sum race against others. It is a magnificent, singular, necessary dance within the total pattern of the universe. The profound moment you realize you are the universe experiencing itself, you cease the ludicrous act of comparing one perfect, spontaneous part of the whole universe to another perfect, spontaneous part. Your sole focus, your primary source of motivation, instantly shifts entirely to the excellence, the spontaneity, and the integrity of your own unique expression, which is the only true, unassailable, and honest measure of human worth. You stop wasting energy on envy and redirect it entirely into your own authentic creation. The realization and the exhaustive, unflinching identification of these 5 toxic patterns, from the corrosive myth of perfection to the destructive poison of comparison, is not the endpoint of your transformation. It is merely the necessary psychological cleanup before the true work of self-creation and sustainable motivation can finally begin. You must fully internalize that these 5 patterns are not singular incidents of your personal failure. They are the systemic, culturally reinforced failures of an unexamined, anxious mind operating solely on profoundly false, dualistic assumptions about reality. You have, up until this critical juncture, wasted an incalculable, non-renewable amount of precious, creative energy frantically striving to fix an imagined broken self, trying to forcibly control the inherently uncontrollable chaos of the world, and defensively clinging to things that you never truly possessed or owned. Your true, limitless creative power is now fully poised to be unlocked. Your innate, spontaneous motivation has been utterly buried and suffocated under this dense layer of psychological debris, anxiety, and neurotic self-concern. The resulting motivational reversal is both simple in its core execution and revolutionary in its profound effect. You must systematically and decisively stop doing what does not fundamentally work. Stop the endless, desperate fixing. Stop the debilitating, unnecessary controlling. Stop the destructive, futile comparisons. The truly wise individual does not frantically add more discipline, forced struggle, or artificial effort to their life. Instead, they systematically remove the 5 toxic thought patterns that aggressively drain their most vital resource: their spontaneous creative energy. Your true motivational path is not about engaging in a chaotic, exhausting battle against these 5 patterns of thought, but about learning the profound art of simply observing them without immediately engaging with them or passing further judgment. When the toxic thought appears, for instance, "I should be better than this by now," you greet it with a profound inner understanding and gently but firmly label it. Ah, there is the tyranny of the should pattern. I see you. I recognize your familiar deceptive form, but I will not, under any circumstance, follow your lead or give you my energy. You effectively neutralize the deep emotional power of the enemy simply by the quiet, conscious act of naming it, and definitively refusing to engage in the old, exhausting psychological transaction of fear and striving. This profound realization must lead to the establishment of the sanctuary of immutable serenity within your own being. This is the spiritual state where your deepest peace and your core motivation are entirely self-contained, structurally independent of the cyclical, predictable chaos and noise of the external world. This sanctuary is built not on frenetic effort or brittle defensive walls, but on a strategic, masterful withdrawal, the conscious, deliberate refusal to engage in psychological warfare that you are already structurally guaranteed to lose. This withdrawal of energy is, in the end, the highest, most sophisticated, and most powerful form of true self-mastery. The final, culminating, and most liberating effect of guarding these silent, deep truths and deliberately abandoning the 5 corrosive thought patterns is the profound realization of a life lived in action without attachment. This revolutionary state immediately transforms your external world, the perceived enemy of your peace, from a terrifying, endless field of psychological battle into a boundless, exhilarating canvas for spontaneous, effortless creation. The sleepwalker, the unexamined mind, is constantly and miserably preoccupied with the need to control the outcome. They strive frantically not for the inherent joy of the striving itself, but for the temporary fleeting validation and security of the final desired result. Their work is perpetually burdened by the crushing, debilitating, and impossible weight of expectation and fear of consequence. But when you have fully and viscerally internalized the truth of the non-self and the spontaneous flow of wu-wei, you realize that the specific outcome, whether it is labeled as success or failure, is merely an intrinsic, necessary part of the total. Spontaneous unified pattern. It is fundamentally beyond your personal anxious control. Watts often asks, does the hand, in the act of gripping, control the air it grips? No. Your action is perfect in the moment, and the result belongs to the universe. This profound, liberating detachment is not laziness, nor is it a sign of weakness or spiritual indifference. It is, in fact, the ultimate psychological efficiency and clarity. You can no longer afford to waste precious mental energy frantically worrying about external variables you cannot possibly control, such as market reactions, someone else's opinion, or the inevitable decay of all things. All your available, limitless energy flows directly, spontaneously, and joyfully into the single crucial thing you can truly influence: the quality and presence of your action in the present moment. The ultimate motivational revolution is simple in its essence. True power and boundless energy come not from what you frantically gain, but from what you willingly and wisely release. Release the need for validation. Release the fear of loss. Release the illusion of control. Your job, therefore, is not to lecture the world about the 5 toxic thoughts. Your job is to be the living, breathing demonstration of the absence of those thoughts. Do not speak the magic words of non-duality and wu-wei. Simply perform the magic. Let your life, your calm demeanor, your profound productivity, and your unshakable joy be the only sermon the world needs to hear. The moment they anxiously approach you and ask how you do it, simply smile and return gracefully to the silence, preserving the sanctity of your inner flow. The journey from chronic anxiety to spontaneous flow is not marked by some dramatic, singular breakthrough. It is defined by a silent, conscious commitment to the daily practice of the observer. You have systematically exposed and neutralized the 5 toxic thought patterns: the myth of perfection, the tyranny of the should, the illusion of control, the burden of ownership, and the poison of comparison. Your task now is not to fight them, no, to monitor them with relentless, detached attention. Watts reminds us that the mind is a terrible master, but an excellent servant. When you operate under the illusion of the myth of perfection, you become a slave to your mind's endless list of improvements. When you submit to the tyranny of the should, you are a prisoner of your past decisions. The practice of the observer changes this power dynamic. Every time one of the 5 toxic thoughts arises, whether it's the urge to check your competition, comparison, or the panic over an unexpected bill, control, you must pause and ask yourself 2 precise, surgical questions. These questions are your new simple spiritual hygiene. 1. Is this thought a spontaneous creation or a conditioned reaction? This instantly exposes the tyranny of the should as mere conditioning, not truth. 2. Where is my energy going right now? Into the unchangeable past, future, or into the possible action of the now? This immediately exposes the futility of the illusion of control. By asking these questions, you create a necessary, profound distance between you, the observer, and the thought, the toxic pattern. You neutralize the thought not by force, but by quiet, honest observation. The ultimate practice is the art of non-doing, Wu Wei, which is misunderstood as laziness. Watts explained that Wu Wei is not doing nothing. It is doing without excessive effort or anxiety. When the archer shoots, he does not struggle with the bow. He simply allows the shot to happen through him. Your greatest motivation is accessed not by trying harder, but by allowing the creative flow. When you stop trying to be the owner of your achievements, releasing the burden of ownership, you become the vessel for them. When you stop trying to be better, releasing the myth of perfection, you become the artist of your current state. This daily practice, this simple, quiet act of observation and disengagement, is the final freedom. Your motivation is no longer dependent on caffeine, gurus, or external validation. It is entirely self-sustaining, fueled by the limitless energy you reclaim from the battlefield of your own mind. You are the universe. Now simply observe the universe acting through you.